His hand rested on the bottle, steady and deliberate when he spoke. His voice was calm, low, carrying the weight of someone who'd said these words before. "There's something upstairs I want you to see." I paused, my fingers tightening briefly around the stem of my wine glass, then followed him without a word. The rim of the glass had been cool against my lips, but the warmth from the stone fireplace softened my skin, casting a golden flicker across the room. I sat perched on a tall bar stool, my sundress loose around my ankles, the fire's heat curling through the air. The bartender, late 30s, sleeves rolled back, polished a bottle behind the counter with a quiet ease that drew the eye. I hadn't expected anyone to still be awake. I didn't think anyone would still be up, I said, my voice barely louder than the soft jazz drifting from the lodge's speakers. The night had emptied the room, leaving just me, the fire, and him. He glanced over with a slow grin. Most don't make it past the second glass. I wasn't tipsy, not quite, but the wine, the hush, the firelight had blurred the edges of my thoughts, creating that kind of quiet where everything feels possible. He topped off my glass, resting one arm on the bar, his eyes steady on mine. "There's something upstairs I want you to see." My fingers froze around the glass. I met his gaze, really met it, searching for a hint of what he meant. There was no push, just a pause, like the moment before a question hangs in the air. I set the drink down. "Is that allowed?" His smile didn't waver. "Only if you say yes." The hallway was dim, lit by flickering sconces that cast soft shadows on the wood-paneled walls. I followed him quietly, my footsteps muffled, not asking where we were going. Somehow, it felt better not to know. At the top of the stairs, he opened a wide door to the left, and I stopped. Two men turned as the doors swung open, one by the couch, the other near the doorway. Neither seemed surprised. I stood still, just for a moment, the soft click of the door closing behind me sharpening the silence. The air felt heavier now, charged with a stillness I couldn't name. He stepped past me, close enough that I caught the faint scent of soap and cedar. "Make yourself comfortable," he said, his voice calm, unhurried. "You've got good timing." The room wasn't what I expected. A wide fireplace cast dancing shadows, the jazz humming softly from a hidden speaker. A bottle sat on the table, 3 glasses already poured. The man on the couch, early 40s, silver threading his temples, lifted his glass in a silent welcome. The one by the window gave a slow, curious grin, as if still deciding what to make of me. I stepped forward, the hem of my sundress brushing the floor, the fire crackling softly behind me. Their presence shifted the room's focus, pulling it taut, like a thread stretched just before it snaps. If you're caught up in this moment, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that pull you in. The man by the window crossed to me in 2 long strides, stopping just close enough to make the air feel thinner. "Would you turn around?" he asked, lifting his hand slightly. I let him guide me, his touch steady, unhurried, as I turned slowly, the dress settling around my ankles. His eyes didn't leave me, watching quietly as I came to a stop. "You've got this glow," he said, stepping back to refill his drink, like it comes from somewhere else. He passed behind me, close enough that the space felt charged, electric. "Careful," I said, half joking, my voice lighter than I felt. He didn't reply, just poured his drink with steady hands and sank into the couch, his gaze unreadable but fixed on me. The bartender stepped closer, his presence grounding. "You okay?" he asked, his voice warm against my ear. I nodded, my voice caught somewhere behind my ribs. His hands settled gently at my sides, a quiet, steady contact that didn't demand more. My breath hitched, not from fear, but from something unnamed, stirring in the stillness. "You can still leave," he whispered, "but I hope you don't." I closed my eyes for a moment, the fire's crackle blending with the soft clink of glass and the low curl of music. The tension in the room was subtle but undeniable, threading through every pause. I didn't have to say yes. I just didn't step away. The bartender's hands stayed near, calm and grounding, as the man by the window set down his glass and approached. I stood between them, their attention a quiet weight that made my breath catch. "Look at her," the one in front murmured, his voice thoughtful. "She feels it too." His hand hovered, deliberate, like the air held something fragile. "Tell us if you want to stop," he said, his hands resting lightly in place. I exhaled slowly, not realizing I'd been holding my breath. Thinking had faded, replaced by the rhythm of the moment. One of them guided me forward a step, and I reached instinctively for the shoulders in front of me, grounding myself. Behind me, a quiet shift, a light touch along my back, steady and deliberate. I tilted my head, unsure what came next. The man in front leaned in, his kiss soft, unhurried, pulling me closer. From behind, a guiding presence, a hand adjusting something near the floor. The room felt centered, every movement deliberate. I didn't speak, couldn't. We'd moved toward the couch, though I hadn't noticed when. One of them motioned for me to sit, and I eased down, the quiet settling around us. The man who kissed me knelt before me, lifting my chin with 2 fingers until our eyes met. "Still okay?" he asked, his voice low, careful. I nodded, my breath unsteady. The bartender sat beside me, his hand near mine, calm and close. The third man stepped behind, brushing my hair aside, his fingertips tracing my shoulder like reading a silent script. The room felt smaller, voices low, movements slow, the air thick with presence. Another leaned close, his eyes steady. The third passed behind, his footsteps soft, the quiet between us its own rhythm. When I stood from the couch, something shifted. I felt light, like I'd forgotten to breathe. Steady hands were nearby, offering balance without pressure. One brushed the fabric at my back as we moved toward a bed, another smoothing the blanket's edge, his eyes calm, composed. I sat carefully on the mattress, the hush deepening. The fire's warmth lingered, grounding me. One leaned in, kissing my cheek, a gesture steady and calm. Another knelt nearby, his hand brushing my arm, focused, like learning something wordless. The third's hand glided briefly past the blanket's edge, their movements measured, practiced, like a silent conversation. I paused, aware of every sound, the fire, their breaths, the soft jazz. A hand rested on my cheek, and I curled my fingers around his forearm, anchoring myself. I leaned toward him without thinking, their calm holding me steady. When I lay on my side, one adjusted the pillow, another sat nearby, our knees barely touching. The third stayed behind, his presence quiet but felt. Their movements made room for me, for whatever came next. A hand paused near my shoulder, another adjusted the blanket. Their closeness, a steady pulse I didn't resist. Something inside me loosened, unguarded, open. My breath caught, noticing something new, unfolding slowly. They helped me sit again, one steadying my hands, another's forehead resting briefly against mine. The third's fingertips brushed my shoulder, checking I was still there, balanced. Someone said my name, a low note that lingered. I exhaled, their hands calm on my arms, the quiet holding me as I let myself stay, surrounded by their steady presence, exactly where I was.